Hello, everybody. We're back on the Unsaid show, and this is actually our last episode for this year. How fast has this year gone? So I have here my lovely, lovely colleagues. Start from here.
Hi, I'm Tamsyn Pereira.
Hi everyone, I'm Sahar.
And I'm Sara Al Maawali.
It's awesome having you all here listening to us, and we hope you have an amazing year. Today we're going to talk basically about new beginnings and how new beginnings start and how we need to choose right ideas for new beginnings. So stay tuned with us and don't change that dial. So basically, have you guys done your New Year resolution as we watch in movies and songs and years, or you just think, this doesn't work, let's just skip it?
I used to do that. I think in the past I used to write my New Year's resolution every year. But I think now that I'm a bit older, I kind of like reformed the way I create my New Year's resolution. What about you guys?
Me too. I have resolutions, but they're too very general. They're not very detailed because I don't want to be disappointed if they didn't work. If something happened unexpectedly, I don't want to be disappointed. So I have some points.
Oh, you've kept some, but you've stopped some.
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to not make them at the end of the year. I'll do them throughout the year. But I've also realized as I've gotten older, I'm kinder to myself when I don't hold on to a resolution, or I'll get back on it during the year. But I've realized that my biggest resolution I've kept is just being kind to myself.
Okay, that's good. That's it's a really good one. I think we're also very affected with movies. You feel that way? I mean, when it comes any festive, holiday, we'll be like, and then there's movies, and we're like, we have to do the same thing as the movies, and we have these lovely notebooks. I think we've all gone through this phase where we wanted to write stuff, and we're gonna do this. And for some reason, I don't know, I don't want to stereotype, but I feel for women it's always mostly about how we're gonna look next year. I don't know, is that right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's like I want to be more healthier, I want to
work out more,
or I don't know if men have the same resolution. It would be quite interesting if one of their resolutions is maybe they have work out
I
more.
think they do care about their body.
Okay, because I think that mostly when I used to ask my friends, it would be something like, well, it's okay, I'll eat, but next year, and it's like tomorrow is next year, I'll start, it's the same thing, like on the weekend, I'll do that. So I think that's one of the resolutions that people usually talk about.
I've been blocking all the gym messages coming my way.
Because it's New Year, so they start telling you to renew it.
Renew your membership. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it.
So we have these really interesting 16 points that we'll go through today. And you guys who are listening to us, please DM us and tell us what you think about it. The first one is you're treating a marathon like a sprint. I love how it was written.
Yeah.
Do you guys get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like therapy, right?
Yeah, it is.
How people want to get to the point but not
Quickly.
work through it.
They just want the fast track.
You don't look at it as a process.
Yes. Do you think a lot of people would want to do that? Or actually, I think maybe New Year resolution is a bit like also when people go to therapy and actually say we want to start new.
Right.
And it's the same thing, like...
That's a new beginning for them when they come to therapy.
And I always tell my clients that when you're coming to therapy, you'll never be the same person you used to be. Because it's a change. You want that change for yourself. So you're always going to be a new version of who you are and who you want to be.
True.
I think that New Year resolution is the same thing. It's kind of that motivation to thrive and to do better.
That's true. And also I think we keep on forgetting the idea of having small changes. Small changes are better than huge changes that we can't do. So those little steps that we're taking to, let's say, if we're going to do a marathon, so we need to we need to train, we need to look after ourselves. We're not just going to sprint. And I think that's exactly what people maybe oversee and don't do, and then they get disappointed when it doesn't work.
Right.
And that's what Sahar, you mentioned earlier about having realistic goals.
Yeah.
The other one, which is quite interesting, is you put the cart before the horse.
Put the cart before the horse.
Because always the horse comes, then the cart. True. Putting the cart before the horse. I really liked that point. Do you know that people, have you heard of people do that, or have you done it yourself as well?
I think sometimes your healing process is like in the journey itself and not the actual end goal, right?
Yes.
So maybe actually going slow through that process and just riding that wave, not putting the cart before the horse, is what's actually helpful.
It's all about our expectations, right? Like how you expect to see the result. What is the result? Is it only one point that you will see in the end, or is it something that you're achieving one step by step, one by one?
It's consistency.
But why do we always, all of us, and including everybody who's here, why do we always wait for New Year to do a change?
I don't. I think I've realized over the years that you can do it for me, I think it's like monthly and not just at the end of the year. So I think over the last few years, I've stopped waiting until December end to start something on Jan 1st. Yes. So if I'm feeling like starting a resolution on November 15th, I'll start right then. Yeah. So for me, I think it's like every Sunday, the start of a week or the start of a month rather than the start of a year.
Because a year is quite a lot to wait. And by then, lots of things have changed within that year. And there's a lot to fix. And realistically, how can you put the cart before the horse?
I think people just want to rip that page off. They're like, I'm going to rip this chapter off my life and start new. But then it's the same thing. The same thing is happening over and over again, especially if you're not keeping track of what you're going through and the changes that you've been striving to do throughout the year. That's why I think having monthly or weekly goals for yourself and realistic goals makes more sense.
Yeah.
Let's do one more before we go into the break. So, you don't believe in yourself. I think that's a strong one.
It's true.
Yeah, you don't believe that you can do something, so you keep on putting it, but you actually don't believe that you can achieve it. And then it doesn't work.
Again, it's an unrealistic expectation or goal that you're setting for yourself. Or maybe it's too different from the previous version you had of yourself. Although we're changing, we are preparing for a new chapter, but we remember who we were. And sometimes we need to step back and see what are the things I have done last year, so I can remember the lessons I got, and then I continue to set new goals.
And I think what Tam said is that you don't have to wait till the end of the year. You believe in yourself, so you just keep on regenerating the ideas. It doesn't have to be a year thing, it doesn't have to be a monthly thing. Can even be a weekly thing or a weekend kind of change. So let's see what you guys think, and we will continue after the break. So in the break, we were talking about how we also believe in ourselves, and we tried something and it didn't work. We're like, okay, guys, you have to believe in yourself. So too much thinking, not enough doing.
I agree
it's like
with that.
Too much talk.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we put so much on paper, or we talk too much, but we're not doing anything. And I guess that goes back to that previous point, believing in yourself. Because maybe you have so much self-doubt that you might not be able to achieve that thing or that goal that you want. So you just keep it behind.
And complaining the whole time, that's something that people always complain, but they don't do. And that really gets to me. People just complain, but they don't even try.
That's an excuse to procrastinate. And I think that's related to the reason behind to do the to-do list and to have done list. When you do a long list of to-do lists, then you feel like, where do I start? Then you keep writing, editing, and you can't start because it's too much. But when you have to have done list, like that this year I have done all of these things, so for the next year I can make them better, I can make them less, there are things I need to remove, there are things I can add. I think it's more doable.
True.
I think people focus too much on the negative what ifs. 100%. So like, let's say I go skydiving, it's what if the chute doesn't open, what if I have a really bad time. But what if we were to balance it out with more realistic, positive what ifs? So even if through the year some of your resolutions don't work, what if something actually does work? And we focus on, we kind of just balance it out and not only focus on the negative, right?
And I got some of DMs here, and they're saying, well, one of them says that her friend is always negative when it comes to doing stuff, exactly like what you said.
Yeah.
And that every time they think, okay, let's do something, you know, let's do something better next year, she's always like, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. So her question is, what does she do when somebody like this keeps on talking that way to her?
I think it's really important to set a boundary with that friend, first of all, because if it's affecting you, her negativeness is affecting you, then you have to set that boundary and say, hey, you know, you don't have to convince that person to think positive, but say, hey, I feel like it's a bit too much negativity. Maybe I don't really like listening to it as much, or maybe go find help somewhere else. But I'm still here to listen to you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So again, guys, you can send us DMs. I'm just reading them right now here, and we could, share your ideas as well. If you want to call, we can also read your messages. Okay, let's go to number 5. You're in too much of a hurry.
It's
The sprinting again, going back.
sprinting, yes.
Sprinting, it's
It's like
related
we
to-
want to reach to the end point before even taking those small steps. And
Yeah.
sometimes with taking those small steps, you're going to fall down.
Yeah.
It's true.
That you're going to get hurt, that you might find some challenges. But it's focusing on where you want to go and getting there, and rather than just hopping and just jumping to that point immediately.
And if you're in a hurry, you might not get it, then you feel even worse. And it becomes a even worse scenario. And then you just give up completely. So it's either superhero or zero kind of thing.
Yeah.
And plus, you don't get to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You're not enjoying what's around you. You're so focused on just getting there rather than enjoying the whole process of it.
Interesting.
And sometimes you have a goal, you set a resolution, and when you are in the process, something happens and you change your resolution, which is okay, which is fine, because you are discovering yourself in the process.
I love
But
that.
when you are in hurry just to get what you want, you miss that part. You miss to discover what are the new things I'm experiencing. If I want to change it, if I want to adopt to something new.
Or maybe you don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
You're not interested
Because
anymore.
you're changing, right? You're not the same person.
That's deep.
I've heard people joke about not being able to keep their resolutions even when they'd say, oh, this is a resolution, but they're already setting themselves up for failure, saying,
Yeah.
it's
But
not going to last really long.
Yes,
so
yes.
you're already setting yourself up for disappointment. Yeah.
And sometimes also you voice out your resolution to your friends and your family, and then you just don't want to do it, right?
Too
And then
much
they
pressure.
remind you, like, didn't you say you wanted to do this? And you're like, oh God, I should just give it to myself. So they're like a constant alarm clock.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't enjoy the process.
That's
All
what
of
we
these
talked
are related.
about.
Exactly it. Yes. It's sometimes you just feel like this is actually not going the way I want it to go. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just change it. And we say that a lot in therapy as well. Put goals, like we tell everyone, but doesn't mean if you don't succeed in them, that means it's the end or you failed. Because a lot of people are like, I didn't do the goals I put, maybe I'm not going to feel better. Even if you do one or you tried to do one, it's more than enough.
Right.
I think, and that's what we need to understand. And let's go to a quick break. So I hope you have your notepad and you're writing down these amazing points. But if you don't, this is on YouTube. You can follow all the Unsaid shows on YouTube, and you can have that notebook, that nice hot chocolate, just feeling because it's been raining and all of that, and just listen to all these episodes, and don't forget to tell us what you think about them. You're trying too hard. Sahar, you're trying too hard. This is one of the points that's there as well. What would we do if, you're trying too hard, but it's not happening, literally?
I think that goes back to we're just focusing on the end goal, because we're trying and we're not really looking at everything that we have around us.
True, not enjoying
We're not enjoying the process. So we're just putting too much pressure on ourselves, but we're not enjoying it.
And
That's what I
sometimes
think.
when we are in a process to reach to a destination, to a goal, we forget about breaks. That sometimes we need to pause.
Yes.
We need to pause and review what we are doing. Is it
Yes.
working? I'm trying too hard, but I'm not getting there. So maybe something is not working. I have to change that part. Maybe I need a help. So those breaks are so important.
Yeah.
Changing the approach.
Yeah.
It is. And sometimes it's like when you're looking for, like you're traveling, you have the map and you're
Yeah.
looking to get to a destination, but you're so focused on getting to the destination, you haven't seen anything
missed
pretty
it.
on the way.
Yeah.
And then when you come back from this, you're like, oh, I didn't see that, because you've calmed down, you've already got to that destination. But what if we actually enjoyed that? And that takes us actually to point number 8. You don't track your progress. And I think that's something very important.
Yeah, I have a question for all of you. Why do you think people focus so much on what they have not achieved at the end of the year rather than actually looking at how much we have achieved? All the things that we've gone through that wasn't not even a goal in the first place, but you've still gotten there, you've still completed it. We rarely tend to give ourselves a pat on the back. We're always comparing ourselves, looking at everyone else's progress around us. At the end of the year, we're not actually validating ourselves or going forward or boosting our own self-esteem. We're just putting ourselves down. So
Yeah.
why do you think we focus so much on the negative?
I think as humans, sadly, there is a percentage of us that always thinks, the sad part or the negative part or the hard part. I mean, there is people who are really positive, and we always say, oh my God, you're so happy-go-lucky. And we put them down even.
Yeah.
But I think we tend to see sadly the negative side, which is not something nice to do, but it's easier
Easier. I
to
do
see
believe in that.
negative.
I guess going back
Negative
to
motivation.
Yeah.
going back to setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Like we look at the negative because it's easier to expect the worst than to expect the good thing to happen out of that situation or whatever we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
And when we think positive, as Seyyida Basma mentioned, it's easier to think negative because if you remember the progresses you made, then you need to work harder.
Right.
Then you need to start, and maybe you're not ready. You want excuses to stop to be where you are.
I think a lot of people use the negative motivation instead of, I keep thinking, what if you actually use like the positive motivation?
Yeah.
Look how forward you could go when you're actually boosting your own self-esteem rather than putting yourself down to motivate yourself.
That's very true, and it would be a dream if everybody would
I
do
wish.
that, right?
We would be out
Maybe
of our
this is
job.
the resolution.
For all of us.
I guess give yourself a pat on the back more
Yes.
often.
And that's
Yes.
something we don't do, and we don't.
kinda.
And sometimes we don't actually just ask a person, which gives us the next point, is you have no social support. We don't actually ask the person, how was that year for you? Have you actually asked, your friend, by the way, how was that year for you? It's like a huge question. You don't think, oh my God, you're too philosophical.
I've mostly
what
heard
does that
people
mean?
compare their
Yeah.
years to each other. Like,
Yes.
oh, we did this. And then I noticed the other person saying, oh, I haven't gotten anywhere close to what that person's
Yes,
done.
That's true.
But
And it makes others feel really
Yeah.
terrible, right?
Yeah.
And I guess reminding ourselves that everybody's in their own journey, in their own path right now. So
Yeah.
comparing yourself won't do you any good but put yourself down.
Yeah.
So
Use
see
it
how
as
far
motivation.
see how
Yeah.
far you've gone. See
Yeah.
what you have achieved. Go back to those resolutions. And sometimes when we don't go back to it, we don't see how far we've come because maybe you have achieved 2 or 3 of those things
But it's not
in the
good
list.
enough for you.
Yeah.
Or you don't know, actually. You don't realize,
Yeah,
right?
because you're not
Yeah.
looking,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
paying
yeah.
attention.
Yeah, and it's so funny, but actually you realize now with all this technology, when you look through your phone, right? Isn't it interesting? You'll be like, oh, this happened. Oh, and this happened.
Reminder.
And then this
Yeah.
picture. Oh, and then we did this. Oh, that's interesting because you forget.
Yeah, it forces
We
you
do
to
so much, and that takes us to the point of mindfulness. We do so much, but we're not always living that moment. So we just go, we haven't done enough, we haven't done enough, we haven't done enough. And we're always, sprinting instead of doing that calm walk or that marathon. So that's something we all do. I must say, I'm one of those people who for a long time was just like,
On
running
the go.
on the go. But I'm also now trying to balance, also to enjoy the journey as much as going to that point, and if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. Let's just do something or move on, and it's kind of
then life is
interesting.
easier, right?
Yeah,
life is easier.
it's
you're
kind of
less
slow. It
stressed.
feels a bit slower, but it feels a little bit less stressful. For example, before, if I go somewhere and I'm running late, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm late. I can't be late. But then I thought, you know what?
Let me be late.
What's gonna happen now? No, I mean now I'm already late. Like, what's the idea of me fussing about it? But that's how.
That was me in traffic today.
Yes, you're just like, oh my god, I have to get there. I mean, oh my god, we haven't started, and then what?
Yeah.
Like nothing is gonna happen right now. Either you find a solution or you just wait. One of the two.
A few days ago, I was thinking about how 2022 was just okay, not so great. Yeah. And then, how Snapchat Memories pops up, and I haven't opened that app in a long time. Yeah. And all it showed me was all these food photos and beach photos, and I thought, wow, what a great year I've had. I've eaten such good food. I've gone to the beach so many times, and I didn't think of that. All I was thinking about was the big picture, and I thought it was just a meh year.
Yeah. And we also don't tend again to enjoy it fully, right?
Definitely.
Until we see the pictures, then we remember, which is so interesting. Of course, also throughout the year, you lose people as well, and you gain people.
Yeah,
that's true.
So that's also
that's a
like
mixture of sadness and happiness.
Exactly, and sometimes it goes so fast. You're like, oh my god, has it been a year? How's it been a year? And you see it more with your children, actually, because you feel you see
their growth.
Otherwise you probably just think, oh, nothing is happening. But when you see that growth in the size of clothes, in the size of of things that they want now, it's different, the way they talk is different, then you kind of think, wow, it's actually changing. Another point is figures are not in your favor. So there's a lot of studies that get done during the year. There's a lot of, economical studies, psychological studies, medical studies, entertainment, figures, and you just think, oh, but these figures are not what they're supposed to be, and they're supposed to be this much. And of course, these are people who have big companies and all of them. Then they say, okay, so next year I'm gonna, we have to put these figures right up to the sky and all of that. That's actually kind of a stressful thing as well, and it's stressful for the team that will be working in this organization.
It's a lot of expectations. When you put too much expectations on someone or on this thing you want to do, you kind of put yourself down in the process as well.
Yeah, I think it's good if you break it down, like into, let's say you have a big company, you have a very big business, and you have that high expectation. You can delegate it, you can break down that goal and ask yourself, what is my part? Yeah. What can I do for this? And then I can delegate it with others, the rest of it with others.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with placing expectations, but as long as, you're not putting yourself down or not putting the team down as well,
or putting too much on their shoulders as well.
But not everything's within our control either, right? So if you're looking at variables that affect us, some we can control and some external variables are not within our control at all.
Yes.
And I don't think we think about that as much. We think we can control everything and we have a goal and it's going to be a straight path, but it's really not.
It isn't. And that's the point before also that we said, that sometimes you just go with the flow.
Allow things to be.
It's not gonna change unless it's something, of course, terrible or horrendous. Then yes, make a point. I need to change this. This is now not good for me. But that can even happen in the middle of the year.
It's interesting that as much as we need certainty, we need uncertainty too. Yes. Like we need to be certain about some goals, some visions, missions that we have for our life, but at the same time we need to be prepared for those uncertainties coming on the way.
Yeah, there's something quite interesting. Is New Year resolutions seldom have an opposite effect.
Yeah.
Do you guys get it?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Sometimes it's a syndrome now, and it's just has a totally opposite effect on us that affects us actually not in a good way at all. Because when you try and put all these things and it's not working, things are, then what do you get?
Put yourself down.
Yes, exactly. So
there are people who get triggered when you say New Year resolution.
Like,
they say no.
And you're like, what's going on? You're like, Happy New Year. They're like,
not happy.
They don't like the fireworks. They don't like the music. They don't like the calendar. They just live in a certain place, and they don't want to move from that place, which is really interesting.
What kind of mental health issues do you think would be triggered in a person through New Year's resolutions?
I think depression.
I think anxiety.
Anxiety.
Self-doubt.
Maybe also OCD, repetitive thinking, of things that are not working out, every year, And then maybe numbers become an issue, dates become an issue. There's a lot of things that could really, drive you literally up the wall, as they would say, or going into a bookshop and seeing the calendars and with all these dates, and maybe they've stopped in a certain place, and they just feel that was a good year and I don't want to move on. Some people have stopped in a year and they haven't moved on from that.
Right. So you get triggered every year at the same date, right?
And that's not easy, and especially for people who have lost people. You know, that's or lost themselves or lost their job. You know, that's something very, very difficult. I mean, everybody's like, yay, and it doesn't work for them. Or even though they were the life of the party, for example, but they don't feel it anymore. Yeah. Breaking and forming habits is not a one day earned. Again, it's following up with all the other, it's the journey, it's time, it's all of those things that we keep on talking about.
It's just a daily practice.
Exactly. And if we don't like something, we just drop it. Let's drop it.
I think most people don't recognize how often we're all growing emotionally and changing. Like every 5-10 seconds we're a new person, right? And if we're growing, then so are our goals. So that needs to change as well. So even if you do fall off a habit, then it's okay to pick up and change some of those goals and kind of tweak them a bit change them, because you've changed as well.
That's very true.
I always tell people you're never going back to square one. Even if you take 2 steps back or 3 steps forward, you're never going back to square one. You're never the same person. You'll never be the same person.
Even though they say, oh, we want to go back.
Yeah, like you never go back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's take a short break.
Yes.
Come back. Okay. Would you guys consider yourself confident?
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah.
Not in all.
Yeah. What makes a person confident?
Their demeanor, the way they talk,
self-awareness,
self-awareness, how they present themselves.
Yeah.
The feedbacks they receive from others.
Yeah, because some people think when somebody's upfront and angry, they have so much confidence. That's not confidence. That's actually a shield.
Yeah. Masking.
Exactly. So if we keep on putting resolutions and then it doesn't work, we might lose that confidence in ourselves. That's something that happens also with a lot of people. So confidence is something that might build, and I say build, literally you build it. Because a lot of people say, oh, teach me how to have confidence. It literally is building. There's a foundation, which is your family and your upbringing. Then you build upon it, and lots of things in life, environment, all of that work builds this confidence, or it can break it down.
Yeah.
But I think keep on putting resolutions that don't work might affect people to the extent that they'll just feel, well, I'm useless, and then they might go to another step, which is procrastinating.
And the biggest thing they would say is, I'm a failure.
Yes.
That's a big thing I hear quite often, is when something doesn't work out, you immediately put yourself down and say, I'm a failure.
You attach that incident to your personality. This is me.
To who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Although it's okay to fail. We always say this. Actually, you don't learn if you don't fail. As much as it sounds like, no, I just want to be a winner the whole time. But imagine a world where nobody at all fails. Now, somebody will be hearing this and saying, yeah, it's amazing. Like,
no, it's going to be boring.
It's going to be really, really abnormal.
And something I guess we ask our clients is, what does failure mean to you? Because everyone has their own definition to what failure is. And I guess that also goes back to that attachment to who you are.
Yeah.
Because maybe right now it's a failure. Next year when you look at it, it's the beginning of your long-term success.
I like that.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Somebody actually sent a message here, which is again the point, the procrastinating, that they always write about stuff, but they don't do it. They just delay it. And I think that happens also as a student. Sometimes you just say, I'll study later, or work.
Yeah.
I think that's also part of a personality, would you think?
I would say maybe make smaller goals. Like if you have one goal, break it down into smaller chunks. So it's not overwhelming to do one big goal. Rather, you'll feel a bit more accomplished if you've done even 1/4 of a goal. But even if you fail 3/4 of a goal, then just be kinder to yourself. Pick up those pieces, start new, try a different way. Maybe that method didn't work for you. Try a different way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you failed completely. You just didn't do well in that one aspect.
That's true.
I think also people have misconception of what motivation is. Motivation will never come to you. You will never one day like, you know, wake up and
Find
have
yourself.
find
Yes.
motivation, or like there's a magic wand.
What? We can't go to India and find ourselves?
Well, you can, but you the motivation is within you. You create it.
Yeah.
It's no one's going to come and hold your hand and give you motivation.
That's very true. And that's very real.
It's real.
It doesn't matter who's next. You could be the best, you know, motivator or guru or whoever standing next to me. It doesn't mean it's going to rub off. I mean, maybe, yes, some things we learn when we're in a good group. But it's also me wanting to learn, or me wanting to listen. I could be sitting with the people who are like the best in the world and still thinking, you know, they're just useless. So it's part of me that wants to accept them in my mind.
It's setting the intentions as well. You set intentions to do something, and you know, find it within you to actually do it rather than just wait.
I think each of us have had a client at some point who has said therapy is just not working for me.
Yes.
And I always agree when people say that. I said, you know, if you don't think it's going to work, then it's not going to work.
Very true.
Because we're not here to convince you that you need to change, or you need to actually get it to work.
That's very true.
So if you're going to a therapy session, you're going to set a goal or a resolution, whatever it is, if you actually don't have even an ounce of motivation saying that it's going to work, then it's probably not going to work.
Very true. And it's a very valid point, because a lot of people will bring their sisters, their children, their husbands, their wives, you know, fix them.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
can't do
but maybe
that.
they don't want to. But no, you have to fix them. But they have to want to accept that. They have to want to, even if it's just that little step. And sometimes we always say, you know, it's your time as well. If you feel you can find some other place that maybe makes you more comfortable, or others, to go for it. We're here to guide you. So then you'll have a tool that you can use, you know, the rest of your life. Which brings us to the unaccomplishment that brings negative energy, which we talked about it earlier. And the last one, last but not least, you know your what, but not your why. It's complicated.
Know your what,
You know
but
your
not your
what.
why. So
But not
like
your
back
why.
to your
Not
purpose
your
in
why.
life.
Yeah, I just remember
Yeah.
the book, which is exactly related to this resolution. It's called The Atomic Habits. It's all about how you can break habits and create new habits, and why it's not working most of the times, because you only focus on what.
And not the why.
And then you do it for 1 week, and after 1 week you stop doing it, and you become disappointed because you don't know why you are breaking this habit, why you're creating. Your attitude is more important than what you're doing. The reason you need to break that
Quite
reason.
interesting. What's the name of that book?
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
That's very similar to Ikigai.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
learning,
Japanese one.
and the Ikigai, for those who are listening, you don't know, it's a Japanese concept of finding the true value of your purpose of life. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you can have as many Ikigais as you want, and they vary in sizes. It can be big, small, and you can lose some of them. You can make new ones, but you don't have to pressure yourself to find one.
Yeah.
It can be there all along, and sometimes at some point in your life you'll realize, oh, that's actually something that's been giving me value all my life.
You know, I really, when anyone asks me about a book to read, they always think I'm going to get these really complicated ones. I love the book Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's here in Borders, and it's so realistic yet really, really fun. It's yellow. I do recommend it. I know we're talking about New Year resolutions, but get that book for this year if you want to. It's helped throughout years with me, and it's a fun book. We have it also with us in the clinic. It's really, really good, and it's basically called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Today we didn't bring a picture for art, so I wanted actually to twist it and ask you, if I tell you New Year, what picture comes to your mind? Sara, what comes to your mind?
For me, some reason I see the beach in my vision. Like I see the beach and I see sunrise.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's like a new day. But we see the sunrise and the sunset every single day.
I know, but that's your New Year.
Yeah, for me, it's
New
just like
beginning.
New beginning. The sun like glowing. I think that's how I see myself. I see myself as a sun.
Okay.
So I'm
that's nice.
glowing. I'm regenerating into this new version, this new day.
That's really nice.
But every day.
That's nice.
Everything.
The first picture came to my mind was a train. I was sitting in a train and looking at the view. Maybe I'm traveling.
That's interesting.
I love train.
Trains are nice. They're slow
Sarah's-
and they take you through
Yeah,
a process.
that's a journey, exactly.
Yes.
Journey.
Sarah's my fellow Libra queen. So
Yeah, we're both
I
Libras.
actually also thought of the beach, but I was thinking of the sunset because I really like sunsets more than sunrises. I think it's a lot more activity happening in the water then.
The colors are
But it's
brighter
also where I
too.
go paddleboarding a lot. But so that's my happy place. But that's what I thought of. What did you think of?
Mine split actually while I'm talking to you guys. I was like, what's happening with my
Should I
head?
get a beach?
Part of it was fireworks, because poof, you know, and part of it was like opening a page and just writing. I always like, I love calendars, even though I start with them and then I lose them. I just like how they look like, and I like get so like excited in the bookshop. Ooh, which calendar am I gonna get? And then it's just like. And then finishes, and then I look at, this year's finished. And I go and get another one. But they always look interesting. They always have words. So, my brain split. Although I am a person that loves sea, but for me, sea is a very calm place. It's calm, it's romantic, it's everything. It's every feeling for me, the beach and everything. But really, it was fireworks.
Exciting.
And the notebook.
Interesting.
Yes.
Calm and exciting at the same time.
Yes, it's interesting. So this is the end of the year, guys.
I'm excited for next year.
Looking forward.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think we need to see again how are we going to live the moment, which is so difficult. And we hope all of you out there have enjoyed this show today. It's the show at the end of the year. And we'll see you next year on the Unsaid show. So I think maybe we can end it with a note from each one of us, and then maybe our slogan, and I think we should wish all of them Happy New Year together.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you like to say?
For me, I'd say take care of yourself, and don't forget to give yourself a pat in the back once in a while, because you deserve it and you are worthy and enough.
Yeah, I would say remember the goals that you're setting for today, for tomorrow, for the next year. They are there for you to have a better life. So whenever you feel like they're not serving you, change them, because you are important more than anything else.
I would say every time you find yourself comparing yourself to someone around you, maybe use that as motivation rather than putting yourself down. That would be my advice.
Awesome points. I would say live the moment. That's it.
Live the moment,
Live
nice
the
and sweet.
moment. So our slogan is change begins with you, and Happy New Year, guys! Woo! We'll see you next year. Good night.